My job as your therapist now to be there is to take you a little bit further. Like, how can we now use how it worked back then to how it's going to help you right now? Because we're probably going through some of those stress responses that we've had in the past. We see that in other professions like physio, like going to personal training, anything that's going to help make us more healthy. We need this one-on-one and personal care, but we also need technologies to support in between the sessions or in between the times. So we're working right now on a piece of technology to help people in between music therapy sessions and to also help in workplace wellness, which we want to look at productivity and burnout and how can music help there too.
Music therapy is not limited to a hospital bed and a gown, as you brought up. And this, I need your professional opinion, and we may sign this. Should people play music at work out loud when they're working? All right, and welcome. This is the Bold Strong Podcast, and I am your host, Craig Nadeau. Today, I'm excited to have with us our friend Jennifer Buchanan. Jennifer is a music therapist. Tremendous amount of information on tap. Excited to hear what she has to say. Please enjoy the show. Like us and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. And also follow our sponsor, Partner Staffing, on LinkedIn. If there's something you'd like to hear or have us talk about in the future, please let us know in the comments, and we'll be happy to follow up. Enjoy the show. All right, Jennifer, welcome to the show. So glad to have you. Excited you came up. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jennifer, very interesting what you do. I don't understand it at all. So looking forward to this conversation, and you're gonna open my mind a little bit and maybe make it better. But you're involved in music therapy, and you have your business is JB Music Therapy, and you've been doing it quite a long time, and you're kind of the pro at it. So I guess welcome, and I want to know, like, the elevator speech. What is music therapy? Like, I don't, to be honest, I go to the gym, I have my headphones on, and I listen to music. That's my therapy. So based on that, what is music therapy, and why are we talking about it?
You know, it's interesting. We were talking before we came on air about, how people can have different jobs throughout their career. And this has been mine. I've had one career, one domain. Wow. And I think it's because I'm still answering that question. What is music therapy? Now, I know I'm a certified music therapist. And what that means is I went to university. I got a university degree in music therapy. I did 1,000 hours of internship that I had to be supervised and make sure I could do what I did. And then I was able to apply for my accreditation, which today means write a board exam that is globally recognized. And all of that was required because we are going to work with really, really young kids that may be feeling socially disconnected, that they may be feeling like their parents might be saying, we're noticing our child is just not communicating in the way other children are communicating. We're wanting to create a bridge where they're better connected. It might be that we're working with the teenager who is feeling so low, and they are dealing with these deep internal struggles that they don't even know how to talk about. Or we might be working with our elders who have dementia and still are looking for this quality of life and this level of connection with other family members, but also with themselves. And what music therapy does is all that work. So we are trained in the area of sitting in front of somebody who has very specific goals in mind, maybe some they haven't even quite figured out yet. And we're using music as a primary modality because we know how efficient and effective it is to all those things I just mentioned, that right to our feelings, that it can get us opened up, it can speak for us when the words are hard to find, and it can connect us to other people in the world when sometimes we're feeling isolated. So ultimately, what music therapy is this incredible niche-y, specific form of therapy where we're now working medical, we're working continuing care, and we're working with individual families.
So this is a super newbie question, so I apologize in advance, but are we talking music like you're cranking out some Nine Inch Nails to see how that does it, or are we talking about kind of someone's on an organ in the background playing music?
So Craig, I can already tell that if we were working together, we'd crank out that Nine Inch Nails and we'd have a really great discussion around why you even brought them up, because there's something about that and there's a story. And that might be a part of our time together. For sure. So that's a great question. Do we do recorded music? Are we engaging in music? What we know is that when we listen to music, we activate the brain. When we engage in it, we have the opportunity to change things, including the brain. So what I love about your question is it's all yes. We are going to hear about someone's connection to their music, whatever that is, regardless of where they are in the world, regardless with what age they are. But we're also going to engage in certain techniques and exercises that is going to help lead them, like a workflow. We're going to take them through certain workflows to take them to some of those goals. And it all depends on who you are and what you're hoping to accomplish.
So does the music become, I'm using the only words I have, does it become a triggering component where it triggers something? And so then it can create emotion. And I guess as you're talking, I think, well, when people get put into a trance-like or meditative state, they, that it's this in between sleep and wakefulness, and maybe music has that capacity as well.
Absolutely. So let me give you an example. I'm loving these questions, by the way. These are so good. Great.
I've been thinking about it all day.
Right. So let's just imagine that you're somebody that's in your 50s and you've just...
I don't know anybody who's that old.
And you've just had... maybe you've had a severe stress response or some form of you're getting checked out for your heart, or maybe it's gone further than that. Maybe you've had a mild stroke. You're sitting in the hospital. It's your first time that you're in the hospital, and now they've told you you've got to stick around for a couple of weeks. And we're going to be doing a lot of testing. You're going to be in a gown. And you're going to be in this little bed, and there's going to be bells going off all the time.
This sounds like Saturday.
Right? Oh.
No, kidding. Wearing a gown and laying in bed. No, okay, sorry.
And it could be.
It's a good setup.
It's a good setup. But imagine this is happening, and you felt blindsided. What our role is within a setting like that is when we come and meet with you, we're wanting to help you remember that you're not a gown and a diagnosis. And we're wanting to build up some of your resilience and your strengths. And having a conversation, just walking in and saying, hey, have you been listening to music today? Do you even have the tools and resources to do that? Can we help you out with that? We're the music therapist on the unit. And you say, yeah, come on in, because I want to listen to that Nine Inch Nails. Do you happen to, I want to hook up, and I didn't bring my favorite headphones yet, so, could you help me with that? And then we might sit down and have a conversation with you about your music. Tell me about very similar to what you're doing now, where you're interviewing me to get to know me. I'm going to get to know you, but through your music. So I'm not going to ask about details. I'm not going to ask about the traumas you faced when you were a kid. What I'm going to ask is, what music were you listening to when you were a kid? And what you might say to me back is, you might say, you know, I went through this really, really difficult time when I was in grade 8. And I got to tell you, every time I turned on this, you know, rock and roll album, I was able to feel like I got some answers out of that. My job as your therapist now, to be there, is to take you a little bit further. Like, how can we now use how it worked back then to how it's going to help you right now? Because we're probably going through some of those stress responses that we've had in the past. And we want to make it easier for you, so then you get off to physio and go do your job. And sometimes we're even working with the physio along with you, providing the music along with it.
So is part of the process is to put someone into a state so that they move into a state? Or is it, because you're talking about a couple things, like what music did you listen to today, which is interesting, but then also what music did you listen to when you were in grade 8?
Yeah, because what you said was, is it a trigger? It is. It's also an anchor. So music can also anchor us to certain moments and create new anchors moving forward. So is it putting us into a state? Absolutely. And that's why music's manipulative, right? And part of our training as music therapists is recognizing how powerful it is, because it's not always for good. Right. We're trying to do it and ensuring that it's being done for good. And that's going to be different because, as you said, it can trigger people, but it can trigger us not always for good. It can trigger us for something we actually don't want to remember or don't want to go there. So we're being very thoughtful about that process.
It's interesting. You know, I'm old enough, I don't know if you are, to remember a time when people would say, look, if you play that record backwards, it's going to give you demonic messages that will influence you to do horrible things.
I am absolutely of the same generation. Yeah, so this concept of mindset, I would say, you know, it depends. We're talking about a lot of people because, you know, I was mentioning dementia earlier. And yes, there is... absolutely, music is going to put people in a certain mindset. And when we're working with people with dementia, I mean, the end goal is at the end of our time together, be it 20 minutes or 30 minutes. What we love to always hear is this brightening that can happen for the person. Like, if we had met them earlier that day and they were feeling frustrated, as you can feel, and confused, as you will feel, that there's a sense of relaxation that can happen at the end of it. But through the process, it's not just mindset that we're seeing happen. We're also seeing a lot of physical activity that can happen. People are tapping their toes, sometimes fully dancing in those moments. So we're getting some physical exercise as well. So I would say, looking at all the ways music affects us, you know, physically, emotionally, spiritually for a lot of people, it can be captured in a very short period of time.
You must, I'm sure you studied this, but does music must sit in some long-term location in a memory? Because I remember songs from when I was really little, and they do trigger emotion. But.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so you can imagine right there that that's an important tool for us, but a very thoughtful tool for us. There is no other activity we know of that lights up the brain in more areas than when we listen to music that has that level of meaningfulness to us as the songs you're thinking about back then. And so, yes, music is directly correlated to our long-term memory. We talk a lot about this concept of the feelings and music. They seem to simultaneously go together, or feeling, music, and story. All three of those you can put together quite strong. And how we use that is that when someone's having heightened emotion, and you've probably had guests on here who have talked about when our amygdala is on fire and it's that fight, flee, freeze response. But it can also be when things are really ramped up and excited, that same place in the brain lights up. If we've got an associated moment, a story that's happening simultaneously, and if music's a part of that, that anchors into your long-term memory quick. And so when I'm saying things are really efficient and effective with music, it bypasses the verbal, goes right to that feeling, and anchors to that memory.
That's wild. Because I'll forget to mention this later, but the I have no idea where this idea comes from, but sometimes when I go to the gym and I'm going to lift something really heavy, I have a few songs on my phone that are like in the genre of Chinese death metal, and they're terrific. But as soon as that lifting's done, I have to flip to something else because it's way too aggressive. It's weird music. So.
I'm actually appreciating you saying that because, I have been going towards Viking warrior music for myself.
I got lots of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And there is something so, I'm going to use the word grounding, like it just drives you deeper.
Yeah.
I love it I did a Qigong class just south of here not too long ago, and I thought, I've never done Qigong before. They turned on Viking warrior music, and I went, that's it. I'm just in. And I was like, growling when they're telling you to growl and let it all out. So there is something about that real power music.
It does kind of lose its momentum when you're going to the water fountain.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not quite as cinematographic, so, but whatever. The thing that I was really thinking which was interesting, is we actually had a lady work with us years and years ago. And she headed up I don't know what you call it, like a drum circle, or they had kind of drumming. And I think that's one thing that you had maybe talked about off camera too, was the sociology of music, not just the psychology of music, and how it impacts people, and there's a cultural component to it as well.
Yeah, and how it can really connect people. There is such a wave of interest now between music, health, recovery, well-being, team culture, how to bring people together. When I first started back in the early 90s, it was still trying to just prove that, hey, music in some of these settings and systems is going to make a huge difference. And now we're starting to see it. We're just at the beginning of what's possible. Music is going to be a piece of everything that we are doing. The difference is, it always has been. Yeah. The difference is just the intention, the very specific tools, the specific exercises, who you're working with, and what your outcomes are planning to be. I'm pretty excited about that. This is part of that real trailblazing moment for all of us.
Within your big circle of things that, are in your head, is the idea of playing music to a prenatal baby like part of that as well? Is that part of the thing?
Right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, I love that. This is happening. So music therapists, I was saying, go and they get their training. There's also very, very specific NICU training where they're doing exactly what you're saying. There's going to be a combination of ensuring that the mom with the baby, or the dad and the baby, the parents essentially, have using music as a bridge between the two of them, can still feel connected when that little baby's still in an incubator. So that's part of it. It's about working with the heartbeat. It was only like seconds ago that baby was right near the heartbeat of the mom. How can we continue that now that the baby is out? But there's very, very specialized, careful training between music therapists and nurses working together out right here at Alberta Children's Hospital, but also beyond. We're working with a new music therapist in this area in Saskatoon right now, who's going to start serving the NICU unit at the Jim Pattison Children's Hospital. And we're really excited. That's through the National Music Center's Music Therapy Initiative, and we're able to consult through that. It's been absolutely a joy.
Wow. I've always wondered what would happen if the mother was more attracted to Mozart type music and the child was more interested in Chopin or something like that.
Right, or Metallica.
What would happen? It'd be terrible. There'd be no connections.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Just talking about children, this is kind of funny because my kids brought it up just a little while ago. I used to sing to them before they went to bed, and they would demand a song. And we always... I forget the name of the band, maybe you'd remember, but we always sang the song, the Boys in the Bright White Sports Car.
Oh, yeah.
So, was that, I can't remember.
Okay, we're going to have to find that later and pop it up.
Yeah, we'll add
okay,
it,
we're going to add that song right on in.
And they joke about it because it was, it wasn't your prototypical nighttime song. So, yeah, it was
fantastic.
Fun. So,
and they'll remember that.
Oh, yes.
So now that's anchored, right? And you've created that. It's a special thing between you and them. Yeah,
and they sing it all the time.
Love that.
Yeah. So going forward in your world, so you're doing therapy, it's being accepted, and as many things are, therapy-wise, they initially you get dealt with cynicism or skepticism rather, and then they become more mainstream as they go, and then they become increasingly valuable as time goes by. So I would imagine that you interplay with occupational therapy and a number of those individuals as well.
Absolutely. We work a lot with the frontline allied health. We work in counseling. We also partner with people who are just really interested in ensuring that our citizens have their mental health, looked after. Mm-hmm. And people are starting to see that we have to look not just, I'm so entrenched in what I do, but I was mentioning we're just a small piece of this much bigger pie, but we have lots of supporters that we are a part of the pie. Mm-hmm. And that's coming from community members. We've got, I mentioned just a minute ago, like the National Music Center here in Calgary has been a huge support for us, and also helping us find ways that we can find donors and sponsors that are going to support these big foundations so they're able to hire music therapists in continuing care or acute care, that they're developing jobs. So there's going to be positions for music therapists throughout not only here but across Canada. And we're really on the precipice of all this happening. It doesn't happen in isolation. I love how you were saying, we started with a lot of skepticism. We sure did.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to sell this and trailblaze it. But the awareness is now there. The research is backing it up. The supporters are coming out. And I'm going to guess that in this next 10 years, it's going to be something quite well known, that it's just going to make sense within our community as a part of it. And with the end goal that we want our kids and we want our parents and we want ourselves to be feeling great.
Yes. And you had mentioned previously just regarding staffing and that issue that you must certainly be running into. So how's that impacting you?
Yeah, thanks, because this is the hardest part, is always recruiting music therapists to a province where there's no education programs. There's
right,
this,
right.
And it's so specialized. So we have done our best to recruit and engage people here. When I started, there were 2 music therapists. I think we're now, up to somewhere between 60 and 80 music therapists in Alberta. But it takes a long time, and
Sure.
So the recruiting's there. We provide an internship, which is an incredibly comprehensive one. We've been lucky to have people from Germany come. We've had people from the U.S. come. We've had people come from South America. So it's also engaging people from around the world, which I feel is a benefit to our population because we're a mixed population. Yeah. So let's bring the people who know Brazilian music and who know Chinese music really well, and we can share that right here.
Huh, yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Is it, where are the programs being taught now?
Yes, there are 6 in Canada. So we've got Vancouver, we've got a couple in Toronto, we've got Montreal, we've got Halifax, and we've got Winnipeg. But we definitely need to grow alongside all the other allied health, but we're missing something here in Alberta and Saskatchewan for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? It kind of causes me to think about the dawn of ergonomic sciences, previous to at some point we all sat in wooden chairs with a wooden back with maybe wheels on it, and then let's put a cushion on this chair, and then scientists started saying, look, if you're this height and you don't lean this way, and it probably was at the beginning was like, look, everyone gets a wooden chair, quit bugging us about elbow braces and neck braces. So
that is such a great example. Yeah. At first it sounds like, come on, just get over it, we're fine. And then it's like, oh, we can be a little more comfortable.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. There was a lady in her office some time ago, and she was into like trying new things to sit at her desk and be comfortable. And then she bought one of those gigantic blue balls, and was sitting on it, and like it was to the point of it was a little annoying to people around her, and someone stuck a knife in the ball she was sitting on. Oh, it was so funny.
Hopefully not while she was sitting on it.
Because it didn't like immediately like explode. It just kind of like, just it was quite funny. So, yeah. Anyways, has nothing to do with music. So, yeah. So, going forward, like the future of this, like where is this all heading now? Where now it's getting some traction and it's into the hospitals.
And I think it's also moving into big places like some policy. It would be really great to say, hey, there should be a music therapist in every continuing care site in Canada. Years ago, the Old Age Act in the U.S. said something similar, that we need to have music therapists.
Really?
In all the So I'm looking for something like that, where we recognize that if there's this opportunity with a certain population group that we have a lot of research, which we do with dementia, that we recognize that music can help people feel connected, less isolated, that it helps them feel their strengths and some resilience, maybe helps them sleep better at night, maybe improves their eating during the day, all those things. Let's start moving into some level of policy about that. I also just see it expanding through more jobs and more work in the community and in hospitals, into different settings. It means that we're going to have more programs, and we're going to have to train music therapists at many different levels, at what we were talking about, the brain and the music and how it works and how it can engage with people, but also the specialized, so like NICU and mental health and working in palliative care. All those things just keep bringing more opportunities for people to get stronger and give better opportunities and growth and scaling. And then I also see it in technology. We see that in other professions like physio, like exercise, going to personal training, anything that's going to help make us more healthy. We need this one-on-one and personal care, but we also need technologies to support in between the sessions or in between the times. So we're working right now on a piece of technology to help people in between music therapy sessions, and to also help in workplace wellness, which we want to look at productivity and burnout, and how can music help there too.
Interesting. Okay, you've opened up about 100 questions. So one question is then, when you look at music's different than sound, right?
Oh. Okay.
So, and then you mentioned sleep, and I think there is so much on, like, even just YouTube where you can sleep to something, and it's mostly sound, which is interesting, and there's a guy named Michael Seeley, and he's got like so much, it's unbelievable, and people will just plug in and sleep to that, and it's not music, it's noise. Other people will sleep to music. And I remember when I was a kid, there was, if anyone remembers cassettes, tape cassettes. You could buy cassettes that the selling feature, the pitch was that you'd buy these and you'd play them at night, and whatever music and what's being said is going to program you, and you're going to be meditatively different in the morning somehow, and you're going to be more something, whatever it is. But does listening to music, is that a good thing? You're a pro. You have to know the answer to this. Like, should you sleep to music or should you just sleep?
Okay, I just love this so much. Okay, so I'm going to challenge us on our thinking about sound versus music, only because I often define music as a blend of sound and silence, and both being really important. To answer your question, this is why being a music therapist is so cool. I know how different it is going to be for everybody. There isn't a right or wrong answer. It's about the pathway to find the best answer for you or your team or your organization. And that's what I feel we're most skilled at, is we recognize, like you're saying, yeah, some people, the white noise at night is what's going to help them sleep. Some people, that's not going to work for them at all. They just have a different sort of biology that they need to be more induced into sleep. So it might be starting music at, say, 80 beats per minute, which is pretty fast, but they're pretty ramped up at night, so we're going to start them there. And then we're going to use music to come down to that 60 and eventually to 44, and maybe they're sleeping.
Right.
And then we're going to do an awakening in the morning. So we might work with someone like that, and then, believe it or not, there are still people who don't want to sleep with music at all.
Yeah.
And it's because it ignites creativity.
Yeah.
It ignites imagination. And they've already done so much of that in the day. So that we might instead create a music piece that happens an hour before bedtime that puts them into a state that helps them to relax before they go to bed. And then they can go to bed and have a lovely sleep.
Yeah. That's like, what's it called, sleep hygiene, when you take care of your sleep. You know, I hate to admit it, but like, no, I don't. I oftentimes, if I can't sleep, there's on YouTube, you'll find like World War II videos, 4.5 hours to sleep to. And it's like, ooh. And it's like, if you turn the volume down like super, super low, you really have to, your brain has to put all of its focus in on something. And it's like, yeah.
And that works.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Here's another question for you, as you were talking earlier. And maybe it ties in a little bit with the hiring and the staffing component of it too, is when you look at the people who get into music therapy, are they musically inclined? Like, there must be a high correlation, not just partial.
Yeah, it helps for sure. This is where that level of specialization comes in, and why also the classes are quite small across, because yes, sure enough, there's going to be people from other healthcare areas, say a nurse, for example, who now wants to become a music therapist, has quite a bit of music background, and everything just connects for them during the music therapy training. Because it's so specialized on breaking down music, so really understanding tempo, understanding how groove works, how to create the right chord progressions that can help someone sleep or how to help someone ramp up, even being able to just play a Leonard Cohen song because that's what someone wants while they're at the hospital. All that is really important. And so it's years of training. You just don't realize you've been training for this your entire life. Right. So I love saying out there that if there's any, if you know a young person right now who's wondering what they're going to do with their lives, and they're in junior high and high school and absolutely love music and love to improvise around music and just love the benefits that it provides them, please consider going into a music therapy program, because we certainly need more. We only have, I believe it's around the 1,000 mark of certified music therapists in all of Canada. And I would love to see that exponentially times 10.
Wow.
So we can serve all these continuing care, so we can serve rural, so we can provide online sessions, so we can really be there for people as they go through what they're going through.
Yeah, you sound a little bit like a healthcare DJ.
Do I? Excellent.
Well, you're talking about tempo and stuff, and like in that, I'm certain that's what a DJ at a deep
Absolutely.
level understands and is doing, they may not fully appreciate the impact it's having. But
Well, they might. And then you're thinking, like with a DJ, you've got hundreds of people in front of you. So you're also using that level of entrainment when everyone's in training to that one beat. Like that is pretty powerful. Music therapists typically don't work with groups larger than 8 and an individual. But we do group programs. And in those group sessions, we are definitely using what a DJ would be using, which is finding that level of entrainment so everyone brains start to sync together, because we know that happens. And so now we're having all that brain sync, and we're able to lead them into, maybe there's some movement or singing and they hadn't talked for the entire day.
there's an interesting little YouTube clip with Zac Efron, and he plays the DJ. I'll get Carol to send it to you.
Yeah, let's put it in. Let's put it into this one.
It's funny because he's saying exactly what you're saying, and he's like literally narrating it as he's doing it, about how you have to, you have to go this many beats, and then you move to this, then one person has to come out, and then you have the sociological sort of situation happens, and then the music is carrying that group setting together, which is really interesting.
It's really interesting. There's a lot of research around connection and people feeling connected together, and a lot of that research is happening with choirs. So people standing next to each other, singing together, creating music together. I'm sure bands are just the same. But, at a time where because I now know we're in the same generation, when I was in grade 4, we had just over 4 billion people on the planet. It was 4.6, I think. It was Year of the Child. I'm just saying, some things are just locked in there. They're just stuck. And now we've got twice as many people. And as you were talking, and we're talking about, how people can entrain to music and how we can use it for good. At a time where we have so many more people on the planet, we're trying to figure each other out. We all have different points of view. We're feeling that even more, probably because there's so many more of us. Isn't it wonderful that we can use a resource like music to actually bridge some of those gaps, very effectively? People in the same room can feel connected. We might not be talking about some of the things that would divide us again, but the music itself ultimately is giving us that sense of connection. And I'm just can't help but feel how important that is.
And it's interesting to put an underline on that is, when you think of the We Are the World event as a seminal event in your entire field of study, and how it brought billions of people actually together, and continues to actually, which is kind of amazing.
And they just did Fire Aid down in California, how they're using this music to, and then also drawing on dollars that you can, now create this ecosystem economy back in to help people. There's so much there. It is.
What happens when someone you're applying music therapy, but I'm not musical? What happens? Is that a different scenario than someone who is musical?
It's sometimes my favorite because, and great question, by the way. So as music therapists, we're always saying no music experience required. We say that all the time. But there's still this sense that, but if music is a part of my life, and I talk about it a lot, I'm just going to relate to it more. It isn't always the case. It's sometimes the person who maybe didn't have the access to music in the same way others did, or they just, they did, but they never had a chance to really talk about it, or maybe they felt really isolated and didn't have the friend group where they did talk about music, or they didn't play in band or sing in choir. And so being able to come and you were mentioning about drumming, I mean, it's so lovely when someone can put their hand on a drum, and if you can be supportive enough that they can keep a steady beat and then alter that beat and then create a new groove for the first time in their lives. They go, Is this being musical? And even that can be quite positive. We've got a lot of really interesting instruments in our kit bag, things that people have never seen before. We collect them from around the world. We order them. And it's for exactly that reason, that there's no right or wrong way to play this instrument, because even we don't really know how to master that instrument. And it gives people a chance to try something new and to create some music. We also do a lot of songwriting with people, so they might not have ever written a song before, but we can put some sentences together that talk about how you're feeling, put a little kick beat behind that and a bit of melody, and they're going, oh yeah, that's me. And they feel
terrific.
seen and heard.
I feel like, and I promote that I have very limited musical capacity. I like listening to music, but my ability to create it is incredibly low. I made my own didgeridoo one time, which is a tube, essentially.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it's not that amazing.
Does it? Can you get a sound out of it?
Oh yeah.
See,
it's just a tube.
But that's
So
pretty
you just
good. Yeah.
Vibrate your lips as you're blowing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is also very healthy for you, because when you have that long exhale through the tube, this is what we would talk about. It decompresses us. It helps release that vagus nerve and ignites your parasympathetic. So there's science behind that. Yeah.
Huh. I can't carry a beat though at all. Like
Oh.
no, I even try to tap to music when it's playing. I can't even tap to music when it's playing.
So there's probably another element that's really good for you, maybe like melody or maybe tone, but there's probably one that you're awesome at.
Well, I hope so. My mother hopes so, because she sang classically. So, anyway, so yeah, she reminds us on a regular basis.
Yeah. Does she still sing?
I think. No, she's kind of older now, and so I think it's in her past, but it's an important part of her, she had a career in music, really.
Amazing.
So, where, back in the day, you would actually go to a radio station and sing. You wouldn't just have your marketer send the records over. Like, she actually sang at some radio station. So it's a big piece of her history that's really important to her. So, but she didn't pass it on to us.
Okay.
At all as kids.
Okay. Yeah.
We tried.
Yes.
She wanted it, but didn't work.
But it's something so close to her identity.
Yeah. We are really good at tape recorders. We could press the record
and play at the same time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Actually, remind me. After we're done, we're gonna go. I'll show you one of the biggest boom boxes that was ever built is in the back.
I would love to see it.
There's some good music stuff back there.
I love that.
Yeah. So. Okay, another question I remember that you were mentioning is music therapy is not limited to a hospital bed and a gown, as you brought up. And this, I need your professional opinion, and we may sign this. Should people play music at work out loud when they're working? Aha, see? There's a lot of variables to this, right?
I don't... okay, I am going to share my bias right now, but we have to take this not as... I'd want to work with the team first, but no, I don't believe music should be out loud in an office setting where everyone's working in their own source. Like, some people are working in a creative mindset, some are having to focus on very specific tasks, and those two things require very different music.
Or on the phone.
Or on the phone, exactly. This is why, headphones were invented. But there are places where, yes, music should be retail. Absolutely. Why they're not doing even more research on retail, because it is so linked to people lingering, hanging out, and buying. And we're not seeing that it used to have a little bit more research being done. I remember when you were talking about playing the records backwards, at the same time they were saying subliminal messaging is happening at the grocery stores. Like, that's what we were hearing. And it's like, well, let's do more research on that.
Buy corn.
Right. So we have to look at those things. So because what we're saying is, we know music has this level of power. So putting in the resources to research it, to do some of these things for good. I want to keep adding that in because, I don't want to do all the bad stuff anymore. Let's just do all this great stuff with music. Yeah.
Okay, I'm developing a study in my head right now where if we could find I don't want to say shine factory, but like some factory where there's a predictable something starts and then there's a production line and then something comes off the other end and you can literally measure the productivity and you can time it and analyze it. It would be interesting to see how much music impacts that, because they used to even do studies where, look, just paint the walls or any color and see what would happen, and the study showed that just the attention made a difference to productivity. But if you could adjust the music, and then what would be really fascinating as a study would be if you could increase the tempo of the music ever so slightly over time to see if the productivity matches the increase in tempo.
I'm in.
Yeah, it'd be cool, hey?
Super cool.
Yeah, but
then it's not just even tempo. I'd be curious about, because there's some research coming out now on groove. So groove are those louder and shorter beats. So it's what the drums are often doing. Sometimes they're doing it with their voice, but you've got the main beat and then you've got all the little beats in between, and it's often the little beats in between that get you up dancing at your second cousin's wedding. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Never heard that.
Groove, the rhythm, the groove.
I heard that, I don't know if you're that into it, but I heard that reggae as a music is built very differently than other musics, where the beats and like where you come in and go out on the music is different than regular. What is that? I got to look it up again.
And I'm sure there's actually lots of world music that's built on something slightly different, and it just evokes such an identity and a perspective so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. I always encourage people to try new music, Viking warrior music, or what is it you're listening to? Even better.
Chinese death metal.
Chinese death metal. And now we're saying, we want to look at more reggae music, or, we want some Afro beats.
Yeah.
Like, everyone should be trying all of these groups.
And that makes me think of something. So we're very, like, you and I would have grown up on an octave, right? When someone who has grown up on an octave is introduced to a sestave or a hextave, what is a different response? Like, does your brain respond differently to that? You know what?
I think this is where it comes down to what's familiar to you. Because for some people, what's the most familiar to them is going to be what they will sync to the most.
Right.
So if they're a part of a pentatonic scale, like a five-tone scale, that's what brings them the most comfort and familiarity.
If that's your goal. If you're trying to shock them out of that.
Right? Let's show something different.
Yeah.
And I like encouraging people, and some of my clients, it's okay to feel a little uncomfortable right now. Let's talk about that too, because, therapy isn't always about finding the most comfortable position to be so nothing changes. Therapy's about let's help people change a little, become more accepting. Maybe it's about finding a new note in your life that you haven't had before, right?
Do you find that there's a portion of your study that encompasses the identification of a person with a certain genre or type of music? Like where, I'm all about I'm not at all. I'm all about heavy metal music and everything has to be, or I'm all about country music, or I'm all about, you know what I mean? Like where people they're very in the club, it seems like a lot of people. Other people are like, it doesn't seem to matter at all.
Personality profiling on music is a thing, for sure. And there is some indicator that some of that works. And I know there is some work being done in that area right now. But because most people that have been privileged enough to grow up with a lot of different music, it's very, very difficult to pigeonhole people. But I do like the concept of, again, having a conversation around, you've listened to this genre your whole life, and we all have friends that they listen to one genre of music. What's keeping you from trying something new? That's where the therapy's happening.
Right.
What's keeping you from trying something new?
Yeah. It would be an interesting pre-employment question on the. It's like, so how do you feel about bluegrass? It's like,
Right.
they're out.
I know, but they're going to worry that they have to say, "Oh, I love it," just to get the job.
Yeah, that would be an interesting Myers-Briggs question. That's probably not going to be out there ever. So, yeah, that'd be wild. So, well, it's very cool. And then I guess one big thing is, and you had brought this up earlier, is why? Like, are we doing this because we don't have, like, and this sounds saucy to say it this way, but do we not have enough ways to help people get better? Or why? Mm-hmm. And people wonder that.
Yeah, so I believe that music is an incredibly large piece of humanity. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't we use an incredibly large piece of us to be there through the celebrations, but also things we're working on, also build our resilience? It is such a common touchstone. It just makes sense to me.
I wonder if you could go back, like if the anthropologist in us could go back and say, when did music start?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
From the very earliest beating drum to the bone flute.
But like even if you just banged your foot on the ground or something, or
like I've always wondered, what would it have been like standing beside that one person and you were singing, like you were putting melody to your sentences, and that other person started singing at the same time and harmony was created. Like what was
when
that?
You're humming to something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been wild. Yeah.
So I would suspect there's actually, I don't know why this comes to mind, but there's a book called The History of Cheese. Things I read about how cheese is really, you can follow the history of humanity by following the history of cheese. But I suspect that music goes back even further than cheese would.
Who knows? Oh, gosh, I need to read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people say that the oldest profession is cheese making, but I think it's actually the musician. Anyways, we're really at the end of our time, but it was such a pleasure to have you. Oh. We should talk more. And you have some speaking gigs coming up? You do that once in a while?
I do. I get invited to do some presentations across the country and in the U.S.
What's the main topic? What are people excited about and want to hear from you about?
Yeah, they're most excited about just a general keynote. So I do one called The Music Advantage. And it's about all the things we've just talked about, but I break it down as to how can we use music better to leverage all sorts of things that we're doing. And so I've put together and it's just a general presentation, so it could be for corporate, it can be for healthcare workers, it could be for parents, but it's can be adapted for all those people, because as we've talked about today, I mean, music truly is everywhere.
If you put out a list on something that said, Jennifer's top 10 list of songs that will make you more productive in life. People would go on that list and they would download that list.
All right, so maybe what I'll do, and we can share it, but I will share, we've put together a few lists to help with a few different scenarios. I will share that. We're also partnering with Revolution Music, which they are putting specific channels together for waiting rooms or to help you sleep or to do, and so we're working with them. And we're having, it's just endless. And you were asking, what's next?
Yeah.
More partnerships, more people, more ways we can connect, because we are still small. Yeah. But together, we're going to be able to do big things.
Yeah. If you came out and said, Fleetwood Mac is the band you need to listen to really ramp up your life.
Oh my goodness, could you imagine?
People would be like, Fleetwood Mac.
Oh my goodness, okay.
There must be something to it. So, in any case, Jennifer, wonderful to have you. So glad you could come up and talk to us. And
Thanks.
we got lots to learn from now. We got a lot of research to pick up on
and
this.
just keep listening to music. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right.